My mother pressed her palm between my shoulders and steered me into the downstairs bathroom, while 12 guests sat with their forks lifted around my dining table. "Get in there and stay quiet," she whispered, but not softly enough. "You look like the help, and I am not letting you embarrass me in front of the Whitmores." My sister Vanessa smiled over the rim of her wineglass. Her fiancé, Logan, stared down at his napkin. Margaret Whitmore froze with one hand on her pearl necklace. Richard Whitmore lowered his fork. Aunt Carla looked at her plate like she had suddenly found something fascinating in the salad. My cousin Ben let out a small, nervous laugh, then swallowed it when no one joined him. Even the caterer stopped grinding pepper. I had spent 2 days paying deposits, arranging flowers, polishing my father's old table, and setting the crystal my mother said she needed for one important family dinner. I was wearing a plain black dress because she told me it would be tasteful. Now she was hiding me like a stain. I wiped a drop of sauce from my wrist, looked at her hand still gripping my sleeve, and said, "All right, Mom." Her eyes flickered. She hated when I did not beg. As she pushed the bathroom door closed, my phone buzzed in my palm. A message from the front door app glowed on the screen. Guest code Diane active until 9 p.m. I looked at the little notification, then at the brass lock on the bathroom door. The dinner was happening in my house. My mother had not asked if she could erase me from it. She had only assumed I would let her. The powder room was narrow, painted a soft blue I had chosen the year after my father died, when I still believed small changes could make grief easier to live with. My mother had always hated that color. She called it cold. She said homes should be warm, impressive, welcoming, full of things people noticed. What she meant was that homes should look expensive to people she wanted to impress. Through the door, her voice floated back into the dining room, bright and polished. "I am so sorry about that," she said. "Emily has been overwhelmed lately. She helps around the house, but big evenings can be hard for her." "Helps around the house." I stood beside the sink and listened to the room accept the lie with polite silence. Someone cleared a throat. Silverware moved again. Vanessa laughed lightly, the way she did when she wanted discomfort to become someone else's fault. "Mom has been carrying so much," Vanessa said. "We told Emily not to push herself. That was new." She had not said my name with concern in years, unless someone important was listening. I looked at myself in the mirror. My hair had slipped from its clip after hours in the kitchen. A line of flowers still marked the side of my black dress near the waist. My face looked calm enough to be mistaken for weak. I had learned that expression from surviving my mother. If I cried, she called me unstable. If I argued, she called me disrespectful. If I stayed quiet, she filled the silence with whatever story made her look clean. Tonight she had an audience rich enough to make the story worth polishing. The Whitmores owned a chain of boutique hotels up and down the coast. Logan, their only son, had proposed to Vanessa 3 weeks earlier, though no date had been set. My mother said this dinner was just to welcome them properly. She had called me twice a day for a week, asking if the silver was polished, if the garden lights worked, if the guest bathroom towels looked new enough. She never said I would be hidden in that bathroom. On the small marble shelf beside the sink, someone had left a folded place card. I picked it up. My name was printed in gray ink, then crossed out with a hard black line. Under it, in my mother's handwriting, was one word: kitchen. I stared at it for a long moment, not because it surprised me, but because it proved the cruelty had not happened in a sudden panic. It had been planned slowly, with a pen. Outside, Richard Whitmore said something about the house having beautiful proportions. My mother laughed, full and delighted. "It has been in our family for years," she said. "I have poured my life into this place." I put the place card in my purse. That was the first thing I kept. I did not leave the bathroom immediately. Not because I was afraid, because timing matters. My mother was at her strongest when she believed the room belonged to her. She needed to stand tall inside the lie before the floor moved under it. A soft knock came at the door. I opened it just enough to see a young server named Mia holding a tray of empty champagne flutes. She looked embarrassed. "Miss Carter?" she whispered. "I am sorry. Mrs. Carter said you were helping from back here." The catering manager needs to know if you approved the additional champagne tower. It was not on the original order. I glanced past her toward the kitchen. More staff moved quietly through the hallway, avoiding my eyes. Who requested it? I asked. Your mother. She said the homeowner would cover it. Of course she did. I did not approve it, I said. Serve what was prepaid. Nothing extra without my direct approval. Mia's shoulders relaxed as if she had been waiting for one reasonable person all night. Yes, ma'am. Before she could step away, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from my mother. Stay in there until dessert. Do not make this night about you. Vanessa deserves one evening where people see the right daughter. I read it twice. Not because I needed to understand it. Because I wanted to remember how cleanly she had said it. The right daughter. I took a screenshot. That was the second thing I kept. When I came out of the bathroom, my mother was standing at the head of the table, one hand resting on the back of my father's chair. She had moved that chair from the end of the table to the center position, where everyone could see her. Vanessa sat beside her, wearing my grandmother's pearl earrings, the ones I had been told were too sentimental to bring out. My place setting was gone. In its place sat a vase of white orchids. I walked into the kitchen instead of the dining room. The staff had created a small island of quiet around me. They were professionals. They had seen families behave badly. Still, Mia's eyes followed me with a pity that made my throat tighten more than my mother's insult had. The catering manager, a square-shouldered man named Paul, approached with a tablet. Miss Carter, he said carefully. There is also a question about tomorrow morning. Mrs. Carter said the brunch for 30 could use the west garden and the sunroom. We did not receive owner approval for that separate event. Tomorrow morning. I had not known there was a brunch. Show me, I said. He turned the tablet. There it was, a draft reservation under my mother's name. Whitmore, Prescott Engagement Brunch. Venue. Private residence. Owner approval. Pending. Balance due. $4,8. My mother had not only erased me from the dinner, she had turned my home into a stage for Vanessa's engagement weekend. Do not confirm it, I said. Paul nodded. Understood. And do not mention this to my mother yet. He hesitated only a second. Understood. From the dining room, I heard Margaret Whitmore say, the backyard would be lovely for a summer ceremony. Vanessa answered before my mother could. That is what Mom and I were thinking. Something elegant, but still intimate. This house is perfect for it. This house. Not my sister's house. Not my mother's house. Not even our house. Mine. I did not inherit it the way people imagine inheritance, with a dramatic reading in an office and everyone gasping over money. My father had left debt, medical bills, and a half-finished mortgage. My grandmother had left me a small savings account because she said I was the only one in the family who understood what a roof meant. I used it as a down payment to refinance the house after my mother said she could not bear to move. For 6 years, I paid the mortgage, taxes, repairs, and insurance while my mother told relatives she was holding the family home together. The truth was simple enough for anyone to understand. The house was in my name. Without my permission, they could not use it, rent it, promise it, or pretend it belonged to them. But my mother had counted on something older than paperwork. She had counted on my habit of absorbing humiliation, so the family could keep eating. When my father was sick, I had left my job in Denver and come home because Vanessa was too sensitive around hospitals and my mother could not handle forms. I cooked, cleaned, argued with insurance, slept in vinyl chairs, and drove my father to appointments before sunrise. Vanessa visited with flowers and took pictures of his hands. My mother kept saying everyone grieved differently. After he died, everyone grieved on my income. My mother stayed in the master bedroom because moving her would be cruel. Vanessa moved back in because rent was temporarily impossible. I took the smaller room at the back of the house, the one that got cold in winter, because I told myself sacrifice meant love when it was chosen. I did not understand then that sacrifice becomes fuel for people who never plan to be grateful. That evening, as I stood in my own kitchen listening to my mother accept compliments for a home she had never paid for, I remembered every small bill she had made sound like a favor she was doing me. Emily, can you handle the water bill this month? Your sister is between things. Emily, can you cover the roof repair? It is your father's house too. Emily, do not embarrass Vanessa by mentioning money in front of Logan. She finally has a good man. A good man, apparently, meant one with parents rich enough to make my mother redecorate her lies. Paul stepped beside me again, lowering his voice. Miss Carter? I am sorry, but your mother is asking for access to the locked pantry. She says the vintage wine is in there. My locked pantry was not a pantry. It was the small room where I kept my father's tools, old photo albums, tax files, and the few bottles of wine he had bought for anniversaries he never lived to celebrate. My mother knew the code once. I changed it after Vanessa hosted a party and someone used my father's workbench as a bar. No, I said. Paul nodded as if the answer pleased him. A minute later, my mother appeared in the kitchen doorway. Her smile was still on her face, but it had hardened at the edges. Emily, she said, in the voice she used when other people were close enough to hear. There you are. I thought you were resting. Behind her, I saw Vanessa turn in her chair to watch. I was in the bathroom, I said. Her nostrils flared. Do not start. I am asking for the pantry code. Richard wants to taste your father's Cabernet. It would be rude not to offer it. Your father's Cabernet. Not mine. Not his memory. Just one more object to spend in front of the right audience. The pantry is locked for a reason, I said. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. Do you have any idea what you are doing? These people could change Vanessa's life. They could change all our lives. By drinking Dad's wine? Her face twitched. By seeing us as equals, she hissed. For once, could you not drag your little wounded pride into the room? There it was. The repair work had begun. If I resisted, I was wounded. If I protected something, I was selfish. If I asked for basic dignity, I was ruining Vanessa's chance. You told me to hide in the bathroom, I said. My mother smiled suddenly because Mia had entered behind her. Emily gets dramatic when she is tired, she said, loud enough for the kitchen staff. She has always struggled when attention is not on her. Mia looked at me, then at my mother, and said nothing. But silence can have weight. This one landed on my mother's face. The code, my mother repeated. No, the word was not loud. It did not need to be. For the first time that night, my mother's eyes showed something real. Not guilt. Calculation. Fine, she said. Then stay back here. Smile if you are spoken to. And do not contradict me in front of guests. She returned to the dining room with empty hands and a brighter voice. We will save the wine for the wedding, she announced. Some things deserve the right occasion. Vanessa clapped softly. Exactly. My sister had always known how to turn theft into taste. I stayed in the kitchen while dessert plates were arranged. I did not storm. I did not cry. I opened my banking app, looked at the charges I had covered for the week, and made a quiet list. Flowers, table rentals, linen upgrades, prepaid catering, extra staff, valet deposit. My mother had told me she would reimburse me once Vanessa and Logan finalized the engagement dinner contribution from the Whitmores. I had paid because I thought I was helping my family host dinner. They had been building a social staircase out of my floorboards. Then Aunt Carla came into the kitchen holding her phone against her chest. Emily, she whispered. Your mother is posting things. She showed me the family group chat. My mother had sent a message while sitting at my table. Please excuse Emily tonight. She is having a hard time accepting Vanessa's happiness. If she says anything odd, do not engage. We are trying to keep the evening graceful. Under it, Vanessa had added a heart. Some people cannot handle seeing others chosen. Aunt Carla's face was pale. She had watched my mother do small, cruel things for years and called them stress. Tonight, even she seemed unable to soften it. I did not know she told you to hide, she said. You heard her. She looked away. That hurt more than I expected. Not because Aunt Carla had power, but because she had always borrowed mine. She called when she needed help with taxes. She asked me to drive my mother to appointments. She told me I was strong, then became very busy whenever being strong required a witness. Emily, she said. Maybe just let tonight pass. Vanessa has waited so long for something good. I waited too, I said. She had no answer for that. The dessert course began with lemon tart and my mother's favorite kind of performance. She insisted I come out to prove everything was fine. She sent Mia to get me, but I came before Mia had to ask twice. I walked back into the dining room with my shoulders level and my hands empty. The room changed when I entered. Not dramatically, just enough. Margaret Whitmore's eyes moved from my dress to the missing place setting. Richard looked at the orchids, where a person should have been. Logan looked deeply uncomfortable, which did not make him kind. My mother opened her arms as if welcoming a child who had been difficult. There she is, she said. Feeling better? Vanessa tilted her head. We were worried. I stopped beside the empty space where my chair had been. I am fine, I said. My mother gave a delighted laugh. See? Fine. Emily is just sensitive. She has been under pressure because she helps with some household details. You know how it is with unmarried daughters who stay close to home. They can feel displaced when life moves forward. Unmarried daughters. Stay close to home. She made it sound as if I had failed to launch from the house I was paying for. Margaret Whitmore set down her dessert fork. You live here as well? She asked me. My mother answered before I could. Emily has her room, yes. We have always made space for her. Family is family. I looked at my mother. That is one way to put it. The room tightened. Vanessa's smile sharpened. Emily, not tonight. I did not choose tonight, I said. My mother gripped the back of my father's chair. You are embarrassing yourself. No, Richard Whitmore said quietly. I think we may need to understand something before this goes further. My mother turned to him too quickly. There is nothing to understand. Emily is emotional because Vanessa and Logan are beginning a beautiful future, and she feels left behind. I am sorry you have to see this. There was the full smear, wrapped for polite company. Selfish. Unstable. Jealous. Ungrateful. A daughter who could not celebrate her sister. I felt the old pull to defend myself line by line. To explain the bills, the hospital nights, the mortgage, the broken heater, the roof patched in rain because my mother wanted to spend the emergency fund on Vanessa's pageant coaching when we were younger. But explanations can become a second humiliation when given to people who have already decided you are pleading. So I said only, ask Paul. The catering manager, who had been standing near the hallway with a tablet, looked surprised to be pulled into the center of a family storm. Then his professional instincts took over. Richard turned to him. You are managing the event? Yes, sir. Who authorized this dinner? Paul looked at me first. That small movement did more damage than a speech. The prepaid dinner was arranged by Miss Emily Carter, he said. Additional items requested tonight were not authorized by the homeowner. Homeowner. The word hit the room like a glass breaking. My mother's smile disappeared so fast it left her face bare. Vanessa sat straight. What does that mean? Paul glanced at me again, not wanting to overstep. Richard Whitmore looked directly at my mother. Diane, he said, calm and very clear. Who owns this house? For the first time that night. No one moved to save her. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes flashed toward me with a warning so familiar I almost felt 12 years old. Do not speak. Do not ruin this. Do not make people look at what I did. But the room was already looking. It is a family property, she said. That was not the question, Margaret said. That was the moment the hierarchy shifted. Not because Margaret was kinder than my family. She was a woman who understood social presentation, and she had just realized she was seated inside a lie that could embarrass her family too. My mother tried to laugh. These things are complicated after a death. Emily handles paperwork. I handle the home. I reached into my purse and took out the folded ownership record I had carried for months, not because I expected this exact dinner, but because my mother had been pushing me to put family first in ways that made me uneasy. It was a simple copy from the county website, 1 page, with my name printed clearly under owner. I did not hand it to my mother. I handed it to Richard. He read the top line. Then he read it aloud, not loudly, but enough for every person at the table to hear. Owner, Emily Grace Carter, Vanessa whispered. No. My mother said, that is private. So was the bathroom, I said. No one laughed. That made it land harder. Aunt Carla covered her mouth. Ben looked at me as if seeing the room rearrange itself around my outline. Logan's face had gone red. Margaret's gaze moved from my mother to Vanessa's earrings, to the orchids sitting in my empty place, to the chair my mother had claimed. Diane, she said slowly, you told us this was your home. It is my home, my mother snapped. I raised my children here. I buried my husband from here. I have every right to. To what? I asked. She turned on me fully then, forgetting the guests for one dangerous second. To keep this family from looking pathetic, she said. To give Vanessa a chance to stand beside people who matter. You would not understand that because you have always been useful, Emily. Not impressive. There it was. The line she had spent years dressing in softer clothes. Useful. Not impressive. The words entered the room and did not leave. Vanessa touched her pearl earrings as if they had become heavy. Richard set the ownership record on the table between the lemon tarts. Were you planning to host tomorrow's brunch here as well? He asked. My mother recovered enough to reach for dignity. Of course. A small celebration. Emily knows family obligations. Paul's tablet chimed. He looked down, then looked at me. Miss Carter, the system is asking for final approval on tomorrow's event. Without it, the reservation will cancel in 2 minutes. Every face turned to me. My mother shook her head once. A tiny command. Vanessa mouthed my name like a threat. I looked at Paul. Do not approve it. The tablet chimed again. Paul tapped once. Reservation canceled, he said. Margaret pushed her chair back a few inches. Vanessa stood so fast her napkin fell to the floor. Emily, are you insane? This is my engagement weekend. It was my house before it was your venue. You are punishing me because Logan's family likes me. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw panic under the anger. Not heartbreak. Panic. The kind a person feels when a borrowed stage begins to fold. No, I said. I am refusing to be hidden in the bathroom of a house I pay for. My mother slapped her palm on the table. The silverware jumped. Enough. You will approve the brunch, apologize to our guests, and go upstairs until you can behave like family. The old sentence might have worked on another night. It had worked for years. But outside the dining room, the front door lock gave a soft electronic beep. Then another. A voice from the entryway called, Mrs. Carter? The valet team says the side gate code is not working. They need to bring the cars around. My mother turned, relieved to have a practical problem she could control. I will handle it, she said. She swept toward the hall with Vanessa close behind. The guests followed with their eyes. I did not move. At the keypad by the side gate, my mother entered the code she had been using all evening. The lock flashed red. She tried again. Red. The valet captain stood outside the glass door, holding a clipboard, looking increasingly unsure. Behind him, headlights lined the curved driveway. The extra valet service, the one my mother had added without telling me, waited to be paid and released. My phone buzzed. Guest code Diane expired. It was 9 p.m. I had not changed anything. I had simply let the permission end when it was always scheduled to end. My mother spun toward me. Open the gate. I walked to the keypad, entered my owner code, and the lock clicked green. The sound was small. The effect was not. Richard Whitmore saw it. Margaret saw it. Logan saw it. Aunt Carla saw it. The staff saw it. The door obeyed me with one quiet light after refusing her twice. The valet captain stepped inside and handed my mother the clipboard. Ma'am, the additional valet hours and vehicle service were placed under your card. The card on file was declined. We need another payment before releasing the team. Vanessa's mouth opened. My mother snatched the clipboard. That is impossible. Run it again. We did, he said. Twice. Ben, who had laughed when I was pushed toward the bathroom, looked down at his shoes. Margaret's expression cooled into something formal. Diane, were these charges also supposed to be covered by Emily? No, my mother said quickly. Too quickly. There is just a banking hold. Paul appeared behind the valet captain. The additional champagne tower and floral wall are unpaid as well. We removed them from service when Miss Carter declined approval. Floral wall? Richard repeated. Vanessa whispered. Mom, that one word did what my pain had not. It made my mother look small. She tried to pull the room back by force. Emily has always controlled money to punish us, she said. After her father died, she became obsessed with ownership. I allowed her to handle papers because I trusted her, and now she is using a technicality to humiliate her mother. Aunt Carla finally spoke. Diane, she said, voice trembling. You told her to hide in the bathroom. My mother turned as if Carla had slapped her. Stay out of this. But Carla did not sit down. No. I heard it. We all heard it. The witnesses shifted. Not all at once, not heroically, but enough. Ben lifted his head. Logan's father crossed his arms. Mia stood in the hallway with her tray held against her apron, watching the woman who had ordered me invisible lose the room she had built against me. Vanessa tried one last angle. Emily, she said, suddenly soft. Please, we can talk about this later. Do not ruin my future in front of everyone. I almost believed she was asking. Then I saw her fingers still touching my grandmother's pearls. Take off the earrings, I said. Her softness vanished. What? They are mine. Grandma left them to me. Mom told me they were too sentimental to wear tonight. Margaret's eyes dropped to the pearls again. Vanessa looked at Logan, waiting for him to defend her. He did not. That silence was the first honest thing he had done all evening. With stiff hands, Vanessa removed the earrings and set them on the entry table. They made a tiny sound against the wood. My mother looked at them like she was watching a crown fall. Richard picked up the ownership record from the dining table and handed it back to me. Miss Carter, he said, I apologize. We were invited here under a misunderstanding. My mother lunged at the word. Not a misunderstanding. A family disagreement. No, Margaret said. A misunderstanding is when the address is wrong. This was something else. Then she looked at Vanessa. Not cruelly, but with the finality of a closed door. Logan, we should go. Vanessa grabbed his arm. You are leaving? Because of her? Logan looked from my sister to my mother to me. He did not look noble. He looked frightened of scandal. I think everyone needs space, he said. That was not loyalty. It was retreat. Vanessa felt the difference. Her face changed in a way that would have hurt me once. The Whitmores gathered their coats. The valet team waited in the open doorway. The caterers stood back. My mother tried to follow Margaret, speaking quickly about stress, grief, Emily's moods, family strain, how I had never been the same after Dad died. Margaret interrupted her with a simple fact. Diane, the house is hers. My mother stopped. No accusation could have been cleaner. No insult could have cut deeper. The structure spoke, and everyone understood it. The front door closed behind the Whitmores. Their cars pulled away one by one, red taillights slipping down the driveway past the garden lights I had paid to repair. Inside, the dining room looked overlit and suddenly cheap. The orchids in my place leaned slightly from the air moving through the hall. The lemon tart sat half-eaten. My mother's chair at the head of the table seemed too large for her now. Vanessa turned on me once the guests were gone. Are you happy? She said. You destroyed everything. I picked up my grandmother's earrings from the entry table and closed them in my palm. No, I said. I stopped paying for something that was destroying me. My mother laughed, but it broke halfway through. You think you can just throw us out? This is our family home. You will have proper notice, I said. In writing. You can use the next month to find a place that does not require me to disappear for you to feel proud of it. She stared at me. For the first time in my life, I saw her measuring the distance between what she believed she deserved and what she could actually control. It was not a short distance. Aunt Carla came to the hallway with her coat folded over her arm. She looked older than she had at dinner. Emily, she said, I am sorry. I wanted that to matter more. Maybe someday it would. But apologies given after the powerful person falls have a different sound from apologies given when they can still cost something. Drive safely, I said. She nodded, accepting the limit. The caterers cleared the table quietly. Paul brought me the final bill with only the approved items listed. My mother watched from the dining room doorway as I paid the balance I had agreed to pay. Not the fantasy she had built on top of it. The decline charges remained hers. The canceled brunch remained canceled. The side gate stayed under my code. Vanessa went upstairs and slammed the guest room door so hard one of the hallway frames tilted. It was a photo of my father holding both of us when we were small. In the picture, Vanessa was laughing at the camera. I was looking at him. I straightened the frame. My mother did not help clean. She sat at the table after everyone left, staring at the empty driveway as if the Whitmores might return and say they had misunderstood the misunderstanding. They did not. I removed the orchids from my place and set my chair back where it belonged. Then I moved my father's chair to the end of the table. Not as a throne, not as a shrine, just where he had always liked it, near the window. My mother watched me. "You have become cold," she said. I folded the linen napkin that had been placed where I was not allowed to sit. "No," I said. "I have become clear." She had no answer that could change a lock. Cancel a reservation, pay a declined card, or remove my name from the house record. For years, she had survived by turning every fact into an emotion she could accuse me of having. Tonight, the facts stood in the room without needing my voice. The next morning, the sun came through the dining room windows onto a table with no guests, no orchids, no performance waiting to begin. The house sounded different without my mother's urgency moving through it. Not empty. Honest. I made coffee in the kitchen and opened the front door app. Vanessa had tried the side gate code at 7:14 a.m. Denied. My mother had tried the pantry code at 7:32. Denied. At 8:03, Logan's name disappeared from Vanessa's social media profile. At 8:17, the family group chat went silent. I did not post the screenshot. I did not send the ownership record to every relative. I did not write a speech about everything I had paid for, carried, forgiven, swallowed, and repaired. I did not need to. At noon, a florist arrived to pick up the unused pieces from the canceled brunch. He asked where to leave the refund receipt. "With the homeowner," he said, reading from his form. I took it from him. My mother heard the word from the stairs and did not correct him. That was enough. A month later, the master bedroom was empty. Vanessa left first, taking 3 suitcases, and none of the furniture she used to call ugly when she thought it would always be here. My mother left after her, slower, with boxes labeled in her careful handwriting. She paused in the foyer, waiting for me to soften the ending into something she could later retell. I did not. She looked toward the dining room. "Your father would hate this." I thought of my father at that table, tired from chemo, squeezing my hand because the bills frightened him and he did not want my mother to see. I thought of the way he apologized for leaving me with too much house and too many people who know you will handle it. He had known. Maybe not all of it, but enough. "Dad would have wanted me to sit at my own table," I said. My mother's face tightened. Then she picked up her purse and walked out. The door closed softly behind her. I changed the front code. Not because I hated them, but because access is not love. Access is trust. And trust is not something people get to keep after using it to hide you in a bathroom. That evening I cooked a small dinner for myself. Nothing fancy. Tomato soup, toast, a glass of water in one of the crystal goblets my mother had only used for important people. I sat at the table beneath the warm light and placed my grandmother's pearl earrings beside my plate. The house did not feel like a prize. It felt like a body after a fever breaks. Quiet. Weak in places. Still mine. No one applauded. No one apologized again. No rich guest returned to declare me right. The world did not rearrange itself into justice all at once. But the bathroom door stayed open. The chair stayed at the table. And no one ever asked me to hide in my own house again.